So our final speaker, I feel like we ought to have a virtual drum roll for this, is Wendy Russell. When I was looking for somebody who was going to lead this piece of research, I had Wendy in mind from the start. We've known each other for over 15 years. And in fact, Wendy did the original report on the South Gloucestershire pilot of Opal that I did when I worked for that council. So what you might already know about Wendy is that she has 20 years experience as one of the UK's leading academics and philosophers about play, and she organises the Philosophy of Play conference, bringing philosophers together. What you might not know about Wendy is she moonlights as a alto saxophonist in a 9-piece soul band. If any of you watch Parks and Rec, I think Wendy is the Duke Silver of the play world. I laugh there from somebody who knows who Duke Silver is. So yeah, Wendy, over to you now, focusing on the key points for really maybe what is the most important aspect of this report, which is the implications for policymakers and educational strategists. Let's just make sure that Wendy can be seen and heard, and that
okay, hang on a sec. Is somebody else trying
Sarah
to
is going to load your presentation, Wendy, right now.
Yeah.
And it will pop up magically.
I think Wendy, are you sharing your own presentation?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Here
Wendy's
we
going
go.
around. Lovely. Right, we can see that, Wendy, if you just want to go into slideshow.
Yeah, it's all being a bit delayed.
There we are. That looks like it. Right,
thank you very much for this.
Shut myself off.
The trouble with coming last is that everybody's already said everything, because I've done a lit review with Kate and Anna, which, as they both said, has been a very pleasurable experience. Thank you. And so all the research that's been presented, apart from Rachel's brand new stuff, has ended up in our lit review. So there may be some repetition, but I think what I'm going to be doing is pulling things together a bit more and perhaps framing it in some way. So I'm going to start off with some of the statistics that have already been thrown at you. So there are 6 in the average UK primary school. There are 600 playtimes a year. It's 20 to 22% of the school year, at a cost of £750 million in terms of covering supervision cost. And that's to say nothing of the significant land value that playgrounds have. Yet, what's been found is that there's actually little agreement about the value and function of playtimes amongst school leadership and amongst policymakers. So what we do know is that playtimes have been reduced by 45 minutes a week since 1995, partly because of the increased academic pressures and the increased testing and moved to league tables, those kinds of things, but also because of the concerns that both Kate and Anna have already spoken about. And here, as everyone else has said, so it's not so much of a spoiler alert, all of the evidence is that interventions made to improve playtimes and playgrounds are more effective than reducing or eliminating them, or even perhaps over controlling them. So when we think about value, we actually used, in order to frame the lit review, we used this value triangle, which was originally written by John Holden of Demos, to look at the value of the cultural industries. It's also been used to look at the value of supervised play provision as well. And we used it as a framework to look at value of playtimes in school. So intrinsic value is about the value of play for its own sake, how children enjoy play. Instrumental value we've heard an awful lot about already. That's the kind of benefits that children get in terms of their health, their development, those kinds of things. And institutional value is where it's good for the school, what the benefits of playtimes that work for the school. Generally speaking, when playtimes work well, children are happier, healthier, more ready to learn in the classroom. And in terms of value, if children can realise the intrinsic value of playtimes, then instrumental and institutional values will follow. But if intrinsic value isn't put at the top of the triangle, then the others will be compromised. So that's the kind of framework that we used. So when we're talking about intrinsic value, most children enjoy playtimes, but I'm sure all the teachers here will know that a significant minority don't. It's 95 to 5% in the key research is about who enjoys it and who doesn't. And that 5% is very important. What we've worked with is the idea of time, space, and permission as a good way of looking at how to plan for and deliver opportunities for playing. And it takes a whole school approach. So everything is shaped by the physical, social, and organizational characteristics of the school. So we need sufficient time for children to really get into what they're playing and not to withdraw it as a punishment. Space needs to work, and space, as we've said, is more than the physical space, it's also the culture of the space. And permission is around the way that playtimes are supervised. When we looked at the literature on the intrinsic value of playtimes, we drew on research from children's geographies and also from children's folklorists. And we were enchanted, as were some of the teachers who decided just to watch what was going on instead of getting anxious about what was going on. There is still a vibrant play culture amongst children in the playground. You can see it in songs, games, rituals, the way that they name particular places of the playgrounds. In other words, contrary to popular belief, there is no way that children have forgotten how to play. They still play hard and in very sophisticated and enchanting ways when the conditions are right. In terms of instrumental value, a lot of this has been said already, but what I want to do, I know this photo has been used once already, but I want to zoom in on this photo. Look at this child's face in the buggy and also the child's face running alongside. They are so engaged in what's going on. They're probably screaming. It looks like they're screaming. They're going along at a pace. And this is the pleasure of playing. And as Kate said in her presentation, this isn't pure indulgence. Pleasure is really important, and it's the basis of good physical and mental health. And you can see it there. When children play, they play with raw primary emotions, things like anger, fear, shock, disgust, in the safety, knowing that this is not really for real. So you can engage with fear, you can engage with anger without the consequences that those things might bring in the real world. And what that does is that helps to develop emotion regulation, stress response systems, all those kinds of things. So pleasure is more than just pleasure, that absolute engagement in those raw emotions. And the other thing that I wanted to point out here, which I don't think people have talked about already, is that the unpredictability and the non-routine movements in playing help develop the vestibular system, which is all about balance and proprioception and awareness of your own body. Poorly developed vestibular systems mean that children may fidget in class and they can't concentrate. That's sometimes signs of a poorly developed vestibular system. So cognitive and academic benefits, I'm not going to say much about this because they overlap entirely with institutional benefit. But what I do want to point out is that these benefits accrue particularly for children with for neurodiverse children, and particularly for children with ADHD, and they tend to be the children who present challenging behaviour and therefore who are kept inside at playtimes. So sometimes it's the very children who have playtimes withdrawn as a sanction who need it most. If they can't sit still and concentrate, they need to go and run around and play. Social and emotional benefits. Like Anna, I picked this photo of children playing rough and tumble, which is a play type that causes anxiety for supervisors, because we do think that it's linked with aggression, but all the research says that at this age, it's much more about building friendships and attachments. And again, that learning to compromise, learning to deal with anger, all of those kinds of things that come out of play fighting, and the social and emotional benefits that come from that. Physical benefits. Often children are more active at good playtimes than they are in PE lessons, where they spend quite a lot of time queuing up and being told what to do. And again, things like carrying around heavy pallets is unpredictable and non-routine movements, which develop all sorts of different kinds of muscles and balance and those kinds of things for children as well. So physical benefits. So in terms of institutional benefits, schools that have introduced measures to improve playtimes, time and time again, we heard it in Ben's research, and Michael keeps saying it as well, and I found it in the research, the early research, the evaluation we did in the pilots for the Opal schools. Head teachers can't get enough of this. One head teacher to me said, I've been doing this for 15 years and this is by far the best thing that I've ever done. They have happier playtimes with fewer incidents, or at least fewer reported incidents and accidents, because the children want to carry on playing. And that makes them easier to supervise. Quicker and better settling into class after playtime, so not spending the first 10 minutes sorting out issues that hang over from class time, better attention on on-task behaviour, and positive parent reactions too. So that's the institutional value for the school there. So if we go back to these statistics, that's a lot of time, space and money spent on playtimes. So it makes sense to pay some attention and to be clear on what the value is of it. And what the literature says is that working towards sufficient time, space and permission for children to play will support them to realise the intrinsic value of playtimes, and what will follow is those instrumental and institutional values as well. So I am so pleased that this lit review is finally getting out there into the world, and it's been a joy to work on. Thank you very much for asking me to do it, Michael, and this is where you can get it from. Thank you very much.